Okay, now let's get back to our plan of action here and see if we can use frequency data. The first task that we're asked to do is to describe the current plant community. Okay, when you describe a plant community, that usually means that you at least list the major plants. And we have two ways that we could list the plants. We could look at our nested frequency plots, see what plants are frequent on the site by species, of course. Or we could look at our Daubenmeier plots, cover plots by species. Okay, in this video, let's go ahead and go over frequency by species. I'm going to go back to our Excel spreadsheet. So this is the one that we downloaded from the internet. Again, I want to do this by species, so I'm in nested frequency 2014. I know a few things I need to just rearrange to make the data more useful. One, I am going to zoom out a little bit so I can see everything on my screen. Okay, looks like I can see everything. I'll make this just a little bit smaller. I don't need to have everyone's names there. Now I can definitely see everything. I know that I want to look at frequency by species, so I'm going to sort this data set by species. There we go. Data, sort. I have a header in my data because I highlighted that first column headings, and I want to sort by species code. Okay, so right away I can see that, for example, Acme only occurs on one line, line 5. And if I want to know the nested frequency of that plot, it's actually fairly easy. I'm going to use the COUNTIF statement in Excel. There's a function called COUNTIF. It's pretty handy for measuring or for handling data like this. But it always counts zeros, so it's actually counting anything that's not blank. And since it counts zeros, I'm going to get rid of those zeros. And the way I do that is just highlight that data set. I go to my Home tab. I go to my Find and Replace. I'm just going to take all the zeros away. I'm going to find zeros and replace them with nothing. Replace all. Okay, now I have a clean data set that is just numbers. It'll make it a little easier to do my counting and keep track of what's happening. So I'm going to count all the hits that occur in tab 1 for Acme or Achillea millefolium. So to do that, I'm going to hit a function. COUNTIF is the one I wanted to use. The range that I want the computer to look at is this range, all of the Acmes. And I want to know if that number is less than 2. So I'm going to find everything that is in the 1. Okay, there's nothing in 1. Now I want to do another look statement. I'm going back to function. I'm going to go to COUNTIF. The range I want the computer to look in is this range right here. I'm going to count it if it's less than 3. So that would be any time Acme occurs in plot size 1 or 2. It occurs one time, there's a 2. Now, for the third plot size, go back to my function statement, COUNTIF, same range. Now this time I'm going to ask the computer to count anything in that range that is less than 4, because I'm looking for 1, 2, or 3. Anytime that a plant counts in 1, 2, or 3. So that it found Acme in quad 3, it was in the plot size 2, and in quad 3 it was in quad 2 it was in plot size 3. So remember, if something is in plot size 2, it automatically occurs in 3, etc., etc. Okay, now we're to the last plot size, the biggest plot size. I'm going to use the COUNTIF statement again. And I'm going to use the same range. I'm just looking at Acme right now. And then I want to know if the criteria, if anything is less than 5. So that would account for anything that was in plot 1, plot 2, plot 3, or plot 4, less than 5. There it is. There were 2 of them. Okay, that's all well and good, but now what do we do when we want to find several hits with one species? So I'm just going to go ahead and I have my species in a row. So now I'm going to just kind of separate these out so I can see what's going on. There's all the Artemisias or all the sagebrush. Here's all the Brotex. Just make them a little different colors so I can see what's going on here. And here's all the Phaeids or the Idaho fescues. one lomatium. Here's 2 Plantago patagonicas. Got 2 Pobus, which is Poa bulbosa. Here's quite a few Poa secundas, so I'm just going to put those at a different. And then here we got the PSSP6, which is blue bunch wheatgrass. Got some Sials and then some Vowox on the bottom. So just that kind of, I wanted to just break the data set up into different species. Now, here's the important point. We've got Acme there. Now, what is the hits for all of the Tridentatas that occurred in all of the plots that we examined? And to do that, I'm just going to go to the bottom of this range of plants. I'm going to go to the bottom of the Artemisias, and I'm going to count if. Just going to do one different thing. I'm going to count if again. This time, I'm going to use all of the lines that had Artemisia. So I'm going to highlight that whole area that had Artemisia, and I'm going to say count it if it is less than 2, because I just want to know if it's in plot 1. And I should be able to see 1, 2, 3 examples of 1. Okay, now this is going to get kind of repetitive. I'm going to go to count if. I'm going to use all of the sagebrush in this case, Artemisias, and I'm going to see if I'm going to count it if it is less than 3, because I want to know if anything is in plot size 1 or 2. There it is, 5. Yep, I can see that I've got just 3 plus 2 2s, and that's 5. Again, count if. In the same range, I want to look at all the sagebrushes, and I want to count them if they are less than 4 in this case, because I want plots 1, 2, and 3. And then finally, I get to the last plot size, and I'm going to count if this range, all the sagebrush, all the lines that had sagebrush on them, and I'm going to count them if they were less than 5, because I want to know if they were in plots 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay. So that's all there. I'm going to work down here. I'm going to show you one trick that can be kind of handy. If you have a formula, you can copy it to a location, and all you have to do is change the range. If you double-click on the formula, it will highlight the range for the data set, and you can see that I just have to change that range, and now it will count everything that is in plot size 1 or less than 2 from D11 to R15. That's the whole range for Brotec, for Bromus tectorum, which is cheatgrass. So that's all I got. Now, I'm just going to do the same thing for plot size 2 and for plot size 3. So you see it kind of simplifies it. You don't have to go and create every single formula. Just double click on the formula. It'll show you where the range is that it's sampling, and you hit return. So that's kind of handy, because it's handy to use that double clicking on the formula just so you can always see what range is being considered. So now I'm going to put you on hold, and I'll finish up the rest of this data set, and I'll get all these tallied up. It's just the same over and over again. Okay, now I'm back, and I think I've got all the calculations done. I'm going to make my screen just a little bit bigger here. Maybe go to 85, see if I can get to there. Yeah, I think that'll work just fine. Give you a chance to see this a little bit better. What happened in the meantime is I just went through each of these rows, and I've got now a full tally for all of the Artemisias and then all the Bromes, all the Phaeids, etc., etc. And I want to point out one thing, is that the first time I did this and recorded this video, I did this wrong. And thank goodness a friend looked at it, Megan, thank you very much, and said, hey, I don't think that's what you meant. So as you guys are preparing your data, make sure to ask your friends and colleagues if that looks right to them. One of the things that I mentioned in class is that when you're doing frequencies, because they're cumulative, the numbers should always get larger as you go to the right. Everything in 1 is also in 2, and everything in 1 and 2 is also in 3, and everything in 1, 2, and 3 is also in 4. So the numbers should always be getting bigger or staying the same as you go to the right. Now we're going to do just a little bit of cleaning up here, because this isn't very useful to us yet. So I am going to get rid of some columns and rows. There's one problem. If you get rid of a column here, it will change the count in the row. I'm sorry, if you get rid of a row, it'll change the count. So for example, if I got rid of this, deleted that whole row to just clean it up a little, then it changes my hits in my columns. So I don't want to do that. I want to find some way to keep these numbers constant and not dependent on what is over in this row so that I can just clean this up. And the way to do that is just to highlight the area, the whole area that I want to stay constant. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste special. This little formula here pastes only the values. So now I've gotten rid of the formulas, those COUNTIF formulas, and I have only the numbers. So now if I get rid of these 3 rows so that I just have 1 row for Artemisia tridentata just so I can see it, if I get rid of that, you'll see my numbers don't change. So now all I'm going to do is change up those rows, get rid of those rows so I can see what I'm doing here. In this case, I want to just get rid of those rows. I could also hide them, but I believe it'll be easier just to delete them. Looks like Posey is certainly the most abundant plant in 2014. Okay, so now I have just one line for every plant that was observed out there. I hide all these quadrats because I don't need them anymore. I'll just hide them so I can focus on it, on the data. Looks like I've done so. Oh, I've got an extra column or an extra row for Phaeide, which is Festuca idahoensis. I'm going to delete that whole column. Okay, so now without too much trouble, I have obtained a situation where I have all of the hits for all of the species. Now to get frequency, I just take the number of hits divided by the total number of plots I had. In this case, I had 5 lines with 15 plots on each line, so that's 75. And this will give me the percent. Okay, so I can move that down, clean it up a little. I'm going to change the format of the cell. So right-click, Format Cell. I'm going to make it a percentage, and I'm going to make it so it just has 1 decimal, 1 place after the decimal. Now I can copy that to there. So now that's it. I have all the frequencies I need for 2014 data. I have all the species that occur, and I have the hits and the frequencies. So now, as you move forward, you can compare your composition or the next year's frequencies to this data set. Remember that you're looking for frequencies that occur between 20 and 80. So you can see some of these plot sizes are better than others. So for a very abundant plant like Posey, you want a very small plot, like size 1. For a plant that is not very abundant, like Phaeide, the closest you come is plot 4. That's the biggest plot, and that's still not quite adequate, but at least it's the closest. So that's it for frequency. Go ahead and try nested frequency 2, and you use the same procedure, and it'll get you to the end of the project.